ever look up at the sky and wonder, like, whoa, what is that thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's got to be something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I bet everyone's had that thought at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're kind of left with this, like, eerie feeling, like, what if someone else is looking at the same weird thing, but, like, no one's talking about it?
Right.
It's like, especially for those of us, I think, who are fascinated by, like, the unexplained, that's come the sweet spot, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what we're diving into today with Cider, which I don't know about you, but when I first heard about this, I was like, okay, this is like right up our alley.
Absolutely, yeah. This is like tailor-made for this show.
Yeah.
And, it really gets at like a really kind of a fundamental problem in, well, I guess we can call it UFO research or UAP research, which is that we just don't have a lot of good data.
Yeah. And that's always been the thing, right?
Right.
It's like for years we've relied on these eyewitness accounts and like grainy photos and, stories passed around over like campfire tales and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But Cider wants to change all that.
Yeah.
So we've got like their executive summary and
Yeah.
the breakdown of how the app works, and like the tech stuff is actually super interesting.
Yeah.
But I think the place to start is with this data problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to give you a sense of the scope of the issue, the executive summary mentions almost 5,000 UFO sightings in the U.S.
Just in the U.S.?
Just in the U.S.
Wow.
In 2021 alone. And that's just the reported sightings.
Right, like imagine what's not.
Exactly. So you can bet the real number is much, much higher.
Okay, so it's not just enough to be like, oh, I saw something weird.
Right.
Like, what was the weather like? Where were you? Like, could you have mistaken a drone for something else?
Mm-hmm.
Cider wants to kind of nail all that down.
That's right. They're trying to bring some real rigor to the reporting process, which is where their approach gets really interesting. They're essentially turning anyone with a smartphone into a potential data collector.
That's kind of brilliant when you think about it.
It is. It's like creating a global network of skywatchers, all armed with a standardized reporting tool.
It's like turning your phone into one of those multi-tool gadgets from a spy movie. But instead of grappling hooks, it's collecting azimuths and triangulating positions using the stars. Okay, maybe not that exciting, but the tech is impressive.
Well, the azimuth part is actually pretty cool.
Okay, bring it down for us.
So picture an invisible line connecting you to that thing you're seeing in the sky. That's your azimuth, its direction, relative to where you're standing. Cider uses your phone's compass to figure that out, and then when you combine that with GPS data and your phone's inclinometer.
Inclinometer. Now, that's the thing that tells your phone if it's upright or tilted, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're playing a game and you need to tilt the screen.
You got it. It's figuring out the angle of your phone compared to the ground.
So Cider uses all that, the direction, the location, the angle, to pinpoint where that thing is in the sky.
Exactly. And it can do it with surprising accuracy.
And we're back, folks, diving deeper into Cider and like how it aims to, separate the, Venus?
Right.
From the Venus. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the truly unidentified.
Right.
Okay? So before the break, we were talking about how it turns our phones into these like crazy accurate sky trackers.
Yeah.
But what I really want to get into is this system for like filtering out the false positives.
Okay.
Right? Because it's one thing to be like, yeah, we're collecting all this data, but it's like, okay, is it actually good data?
Right.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and that's something they really emphasize in the How Cider Works document. They've clearly put a lot of thought into minimizing misidentifications.
Oh, good. How do they do it?
Well, one of the methods that really stood out to me was this real-time user polling.
Okay.
So picture this. You're outside, right? You see something weird in the sky. And let's say a couple of other Cider users in like your area, they're also looking at this thing. So the app detects this like cluster of reports and it immediately polls other users nearby.
Oh, wow.
Like, hey, are you seeing something unusual right now?
So it's like a crowdsourced sanity check?
Yeah,
Dang it.
exactly.
Okay.
Like it's tapping into the power of like collective observation, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just about like verifying that something's actually there. It's about quickly ruling out the obvious, right? So like you see something strange, but then like 10 other users near you are like, nah, it's just a drone. Like that information gets factored in immediately.
Smart.
Yeah.
It's like that thing everyone always talks about, like mistaking weather balloons for UFOs, right?
Yeah. Classic example.
Does Cider like take that kind of stuff into account?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
So in addition to that user polling, they're also cross-referencing all the sighting data with like publicly available information, like think weather reports, known flight paths, even astronomical events.
Oh, wow.
So if there's like a meteor shower that night or a satellite passing overhead, the app knows about it.
That's wild.
And it can factor that into like its analysis and be like, okay, this is probably just whatever, like a meteor.
So there's like a lot of data crunching going on in the background.
Oh yeah, behind the scenes, it's pretty complex.
I'm picturing like a whole team of people hunched over computers, comparing reports with like flight schedules and star charts and stuff.
Well, a lot of it is automated, obviously, but you're right. It's complicated. But that's part of what makes CIDR so interesting, right? They're not just saying, hey, just trust us, this data is good. Like, they're explaining how it works.
Transparent.
Exactly. They're showing their work, explaining how they're using technology to, like, minimize human error, minimize our tendency to jump to conclusions.
Like they're bringing like actual science to a topic that's always been considered like, I don't know, kind of out there.
Right. They're bringing a scientific lens to a field that's often been dismissed as, well, unscientific.
And that makes me wonder, even if this app works perfectly.
Yeah.
Right? Like even if it totally changes how we gather data about UFOs.
Yeah.
Like what does that actually mean, for our understanding of everything?
It's a big question, isn't it?
It is. And it's one we're going to tackle head on right after this break. All right, so we're back. And I'm like really curious about this. Like, what if CIDR actually works?
Right.
Like, what if we take the unidentified out of UFO?
Out of UFO.
Like, what happens then?
What do we learn?
Yeah.
Well, I think even if we just like set aside the most like out there possibilities for a second,
Okay.
the impact on just like regular science could be huge.
Really?
Think about it, right? Like researchers who are studying like the atmosphere, they're suddenly swimming in data, thousands of data points about like weird light behavior, all time-stamped, correlated with weather patterns.
It's like instead of having a couple blurry Polaroids,
Right.
you've got like a full-on high-def time-lapse
Exactly.
of like a storm cloud forming or something.
Yeah, and you'd start to see patterns you never even considered before.
That's cool. Okay, but let's be real. Like, I think a lot of us are hoping CIDR is going to find,
Yeah.
evidence,
The good stuff.
the good stuff, of something truly like out of this world. Could this be it? Like, could this be the thing that finally ends the whole "are we alone" debate?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely a possibility, right? And the timing is interesting, Like we're seeing this big shift in how people are talking about UFOs.
Yeah, it's true. Like everyone's taking it more seriously now.
Way more seriously. Governments are being more open, scientists are actually doing real research, and people are really interested.
Yeah, more than ever.
So in that context, something like CIDR with its whole citizen science thing, it kind of feels, I don't know.
It feels inevitable almost.
Right. Like it was bound to happen.
Yeah. It's like we're taking the search for the unexplained and putting it in everyone's pockets.
Exactly. And that's what I find so exciting about it. It's not just an app. It's like this testament to how curious we are, our need to figure things out.
I love that.
And whether you're like totally convinced there are aliens out there,
Right.
or you just want to like learn more about our own planet, CIDR gives you a way to be a part of it all.
So to everyone listening, the ones who get this show, the ones who are always asking questions, the ones who look up at the night sky and get that little shiver down their spine, what if this is all it takes? Like, what if looking up with your phone is how we unlock the biggest mysteries in the universe? If that sounds like your kind of adventure, go check out CIDR. Let us know what you think. And until next time, keep exploring.